Hmm. Oh, I love you. I really do. Oh, hello there. I was just commenting on complimenting one of my favourite movies of all time. Yes, that is the Avengers movie, or Avengers Assembled, as the proper title seems to be. I presume that they're planning ahead, and if they're going to make more Avengers movies, which they actually have I stand corrected. They have confirmed they are making Avengers 2 for 2015. Just put that down there for a second. But yes, I am doing a review now on the Avengers, just quickly going through my points of why I love this film. Uh, and so let's start off. Of the background behind this film is the fact is Marvel Studios, the film studio company of Marvel Comics, who own the right to the proliferance of characters on the front. And over the last several years, they have slowly been creating numerous individual movies on each of their characters. So been establishing these characters, giving them their own background, so we're all used to them. And the Avengers um, was the eventual result of all of these individual movies coming together. The Avengers' name coming from the Avengers superhero team, which all of these characters belong to in the comics. So instantly you can see why this movie would be looked forward to by numerous fans, and for quite a long time. Just the mere hint that an Avengers movie was in production would send paroxysms of ecstasy flowing through the veins of many a nerd fanboy like myself. As soon as I found out they were going to be doing it, I gave my raised eyebrow of anticipation, and just knew that I would definitely be going to pay to see this movie, no matter the cost. So the usual premise for a hero movie: a great threat emerges, and the a superhero team needs to be assembled to battle it, the best line of defense against them. Now, this may seem like the normal thing. An evil threat approaches, get the heroes together. As they do in the film, the heroes have trouble um, aligning their different personalities together to try and unite as a team to face this threat, and then eventually do to face it. But the fact is, it came together so well that the people I've talked to, the fans of Marvel Comics, and let's be honest here, there may be some people that will allow their better judgment, their reviewer critique, to be clouded by their loving of a franchise, of favourite characters and such, just having these characters on screen. They may allow their judgment to be askew in favour of that. But everyone I've talked to has no criticism of this film. It's tighter than a corset at the end of the day. And I was just sitting back, and I was being very objective in the actual cinema. There were a few points where you just wanted to reach in and start strangling the heroes and say, "Come on, bloody work together, you fools! Stop arguing, etc." But no, these are. I mean, afterwards, I sat back and thought, "What the hell?" You know, my little bits and pieces be gone at the end of the day. What I just watched was a outstanding film. This was just, you may dismiss this as just a superhero movie at the end of the day. Hey, if you watched a lot of superhero movies, as I have, there has been some appalling stuff at the end of the day. They come out. Let's have a look. Let's go from bad to average to good. From the bad point, you've had like the Daredevil film, Elektra. I liked Elektra, but I admit it wouldn't be most people's cup of tea. At the end of the day, it was very low key, very low brow. You Nicolas Cage as Ghost Rider. as great as it was, again, to see Ghost Rider on the screen, wasn't a good film at the end of the day. It was just Ghost Rider going through the motions, and that's the problem with actually quite a few superhero movies, is the fact that it's very stereotypical what happens. Most of them gain their power from whatever source that they did, the spider bite for Spider-Man, and a freak mutant accident like the Hulk, a genetic awakening, space radiation like the Fantastic Four, or all of these came all and they gain their power. They go through trials. They slowly learn to adapt to their power. An evil villain rises, the showdown, and then the aftermath. And the extra bits also always include the love interest character. No superhero movie gets away from the old ball and chain at the end of the day. And this is my grave issue with the superhero movies: the fact that they have to have the love interest character. It's almost as if it's like the it's like the solid representation of the motivation of the character to succeed, to do something, is because of this ball and chain, the love interest. I have to say, in a few of the movies I will mention, and they've tried nowadays to balance out the love interest a bit more, to make her more useful, if I have to be blunt, rather than just be there to glaze into the superhero's eyes and say, "You can do this. I give you the power of my willpower, the strength of my strength. I believe in you," whatever your name is. But yes, going away from mediocre, we go into the main amount of superhero movies, which are the average movies, which everything from the original Spider-Man trilogy they did with Tobey Maguire, Fantastic Four, the first movie. I have to actually say it puts Silver Surfer in the bad, poor sphere. And go on to the good movies. You've got stuff like this. And I realise now that I have gone off track a bit, because I've gone into a whole critique about the Marvel films rather than focusing on this one. So let me just wind it back to get to this. I'll just mention the other couple of good movies I have seen, superhero-wise. X-Men First Class. That was handled marvellously, fantastically well. The script was solid. It related to real life events that happened in the world and twisted them. It made them into their own. It made it part of their own mythos, which I quite liked. And I liked the characters. And I thought the friendship between Xavier and Magneto's actors was solid and believable at the end of the day. But you could see why their friendship was strained and ultimately broken because of their differing viewpoints. And the third one, this is the first one, X-Men First Class, or the second movie. I actually liked the reboot of the Spider-Man franchise with Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man. And the reason I liked it is because I quite liked him as Spider-Man. It was exploring, and it had the entire spider bite nonsense again, but it at least didn't copy the Tobey Maguire one at all. Or it did its own thing. And the love interest at least tried to be helpful. She was trying her best to do something. The ending, I admit, was very poor in comparison to the rest of the film, but still great quality. Now, again, I apologise, this video is going to be a bit longer than normal, and I am sorry, again, I've gone off topic. I should have saved it for a different film, a different thing, perhaps a critique about Marvel films as a franchise, which I might end up doing. and see how this goes, and see if you guys actually want me to do a proper in-depth critique about Marvel films. Anyway, so why was this great film? Established characters, great. But the fact is, the actors that played all of the parts, actually you could imagine them as Robert Downey Jr. As Tony Stark is perfect. He's cocky, he's arrogant, he's funny at the same time in his own mind, but he's also vulnerable to his human frailties. And I think no matter what happens now, even if they do an Iron Man reboot like they did with the Spider-Man franchise, they're going to everyone will always think of Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man when they do that. Chris Evans and the other one's Chris Evans as Captain America. He just seems perfect as well because, clean cut all American hero boy. Scarlett Johansson as the Black Widow, and by the way, that girl can fight. Only girl on the team, and she bloody proved herself. I was hoping they'd bring in Scarlet Witch as well. I mean, she was a really big hitter in the Avengers in the comics. Maybe she will come in the future. So, strong characterization. And Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury, brilliant. Strong characterization, but how do I describe this? I think whilst it is a superhero movie, it defies the boundaries and sets new standards for superhero movies. Whilst they had the villain Loki, who was Thor's brother, this character here, but they increased his threat to a believable level. They gave him an army. I mean, there's no even question where the hell this army came from in the first place. But they gave him an army, and he became a credible threat that needed the ramping up of stakes by getting the Avengers together. But at the same point, in the film, the Avengers, as I mentioned, have to pull together to be a team. As they're pulling together, they end up in a lot of fist fights with each other. And in the scene in the helicarrier, when Thor and the Hulk started duking out after the Hulk lost his rage, I sat back and I was thinking, oh my god, I am actually watching a live-action version of a superhero fighting game. And it was true, because you had Thor fighting Iron Man, then Captain America got involved, then you have Thor fighting not Scarlet Witch, Thor fighting Black Widow, Black Widow fighting Hawkeye. Then before, it felt like I was watching a superhero fighter game, but it stayed true to the fact that sometimes the heroes have conflicts in the comics, and that carried across quite well. I felt I was watching a actual live action. I was watching a live action version of the Avengers. How do I get this across? It's as if they took what I'd imagined a live action Avengers being and actually bring it into reality. That's how I describe it. It's almost it defied expectation. It defied what I think people thought Marvel as a studio was capable of. I mentioned about the standards before. The standard in Marvel's films have steadily been rising. You'd had they started off with Blade trilogy, and then they had the Spider-Man thing. They had other independent movies in between that, but we'll ignore them because, like I mentioned, they had Daredevil and stuff, but they've kind of been forgotten, shall we say. But then they brought out Iron Man, and the quality steadily rose up until they hit First Class, which I was immensely surprised about, and then they hit this absolute superhero perfection. I was in the cinema, and I am not ashamed to admit, at some points I was going, yay! sort of thing. I was excited. I was ecstatic. It, I think the pivotal, everyone, I think most people will agree with me. The scene that made it for me for this movie was the one when the six Avengers. I mean, it was sheer gratuitous nerdiness, and that's another thing. The fact that it's balanced. So I think people that are not too familiar with Marvel Comics and the franchise can go and watch the movie, but it's got so much nerdiness that people that the nerds, the people really into it, the fans, they will be, as I was, going absolutely mental. And the gratuitous thing I mentioned, I'll just get into. In New York City, the six Avengers are then assembled, and they do a panning camera shot and circle around them, and that just sold it for me. Like I said, that's pure gratuitous, but for once, and I think no one's going to disagree with me, that really did sum up the movie. That had brought together the fact that the heroes were all together at last and they were ready to fight that threat. And what followed was one of the best team fight things I've ever seen. The Avengers working together to battle this army. Then, as individuals and as teammates, it's when Thor and Hulk were on that evil alien serpent ship thing that's flying around New York, and Hulk, hammered in that metal into the creature, and then Thor smacked it with his magical hammer, and it went down like crazy. That absolutely brilliant, quite brilliant, and yeah. Sorry, I've got myself excited now just thinking about it. Um, I think I don't really need to go too much into why I love this movie. I've talked about the fact of strong characterization, and which made you actually care and want to see what's happening to these characters. Whereas I've gone into the fact that it's accessible to people just casually going to see it with some basic knowledge, perhaps, of the Marvel films and Marvel characters, and also the hardcore fans. I mean, for the hardcore fans, this is a cult treat. This was the new standard that Marvel needs to keep their movies by. I'm somewhat afraid now. I've always had a thing against gritty realism that a lot of modern reboots and adaptations seem to focus on with their characters these days. You've seen it with Star Trek. You've seen it with what else? Reboots. I mean, you've seen it with the Marvel films that the characters have a lot more weakness prevalent in what they are. I mean, they definitely whilst the Iron Man thing with alcohol abuse, etc., which was explored a bit more, was prevalent in the comics. They made sure to include it in the films to be there. And one is now that the sequel that I mentioned before that they're making for 2015. They said oh god, who's the director's name again? I know that the director of this Avengers movie said if they do make a sequel, which has been confirmed, they want it to be a lot more intense and emotional for the heroes involved. And if I've seen anything, the trailer's for Iron Man 3, that's out now, I'm going to go and see it. For The Dark World, I need to see that trailer. But all the information and the background stuff that I've seen so far suggests to me that the forthcoming Avenger movies, the individual ones, and then the sequel is going to get a lot more dark and gritty. And I'm never a fan of going too far down that route because you threaten to lose, some sensible common ground. I know people want to see heroes suffer some internal turmoil. They want heroes to be realistic and human, almost, strangely enough. They want people that they call superhumans to show human weakness. But I've never been. I mean, some people are just good. Some people are just heroes at the end of the day. Yes, they go through hard times at times, but ultimately, not everyone does. And I would like to see a few heroes at least that are just, prepared to do things out of the kindness of their hearts and, an actual sensible belief in justice. It's call me slightly naive if I seem like that. But yeah. But anyway, at the very least, I think of this as the standard which Marvel need to set their movies by, and I hope that the directors and producers, etc., will at least rewatch this before they defo go into production of the second one, so that they can bring us another superb classic. Okay, really sorry for how long this review dragged on. I went off on one again, but I hope that you found that informative, and I hope some of my points you found agreeable, if not most of them. Fingers crossed. Okay, I'll talk to you soon.